Happy Wednesday, people. It is June 7th, 2017. We are on our TSL Online Call. It is 9 p.m. in Austin, Texas. And let me just tell you, what I want to talk about here is when we get into expressing ourselves, it's one of the most important things we can do. Yet, if we don't do that to the point where it connects, it's useless. And this is a super, super important concept when it comes to social dynamics, but more importantly, when it comes to bettering yourself, being the man you want to be. That all being said, what you want to do is you want to click the free stuff link down below this video if you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher, below the audio feed or whatever, and it will take you to a page where you can watch the video, but also you can get involved with what we are doing. Now, part of that is the Austin Men's Development Group, which is a free Facebook group. Number two, there's a Men's Development Excellence Program, which is a paid membership. So that's not free stuff, but it's still on the free stuff link and you should know about it. And that's where these calls fucking kick ass. And I'm going to get to that here in a second. And the third thing is that we give away free PDFs. And actually in the month of June 2017, we're going to be starting our challenges up again. And these are free challenges where 7 days a week, we're working with you, man, live, face-to-face over recordings and whatnot. But still, I'm going to be coaching with you. I'm going to be working with you. And they have to do with, the physical side of things. They have to do with the motivational, purpose, ambition side of things. They'll have to do with the meeting and approaching women side of things. And they'll also have to do with some online dating stuff. So you want to be involved in those. And the way you get involved in those is, be in our feed. Be in our feed. We'll let you know about them. They'll be loud and clear. Be on the Austin Men's Development Group, and let's get started with that. So that all being said, guys, we have this amazing men's group here, and where these podcasts and where these calls come from is guys ask questions and they interact. And so we've been having an interaction on a board in the last probably 24 hours where a guy who's a part of our groups and one of our advanced groups, our TSL Online group, he was talking about some depression stuff and some for real shit, man. And I'm somebody that's gone through some heavy, heavy, heavy depression. I still get depressed. Okay. You should never be ashamed of that. You should never be ashamed of that. Remember, your expression is your worth. All right. And so me talking about that, or you talking about that, or being able to talk about that and stop running from it in the world is key. But one of the things that we got into in this discussion is expression is one thing. That'll give you some liberation. That'll give you some happiness. But if it can't connect to the world, all right, if somebody else doesn't value it, essentially, if somebody else doesn't share that with you, man, then it's meaningless. All right. And so let's put this into a little bit of context, because one of the things that got brought up, all right, and one of the things that we talk about a lot on these calls is like, man, sometimes I just want to give up. I want to give up. What would happen if I killed myself? What would happen if I was done? And one of the interesting things of having a men's group where guys are really honest is some people don't think that and some people do. But it's very, very common. But some people just never entertain it. All right. And when I've really pressed these guys, I'm like, seriously? I know, the psychological whatever says that you're mentally ill if you consider suicide or whatever. But a lot of people think that. Okay, a lot of people think that. And the more that we are open to saying a lot of people think that and are willing to talk about that, especially where we can be honest and don't need to overreact to it or go like, but I have to be a bad person and I might as well just do it or whatever. And where we can actually, not make it such a emergency big deal. Of course, I work with a lot of crazy people, especially in the field of addiction. And I know a lot of people who do kill themselves. So if you're doing that, get some fucking help, right? But I think we all need to talk about it more. Okay, so I'm not trying to minimize it if you're in that mode, seek help. That's what I'm saying, man. Let's start a dialogue. Let's fucking talk about it. But in the way that it was brought up, it's like, man, fuck yeah. Man, I think about that all the time. I think about that all the time. Whenever something bad happens, whenever I don't get my way, or whenever, I lose something, whenever I'm at a point where I am faced with the doubt of myself, like, goddamn, man, of course I want to give up. I want to say fuck it to everything. Like, who doesn't want that? If my boss is mean to me at my job, I want to walk out of that job. If I lose money, or if I have, somebody talk shit on me online or something, I'm like, man, fuck this. I want out. But then let's say it goes a little bit deeper, right? It goes a little bit deeper to me. And I get a fuck you by like, man, somebody who really cares. Let's say I have a falling out with a friend. Or let's say, I have a falling out with somebody and then they tell me off. They tell me and they go, man, Steve, you're like this narcissistic fucking asshole. You never get shit right. Blah, 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 blah. Anybody, okay, this is a for real thing. Anybody who's gone through a divorce or some custody battle or something where like, big break happens, with a woman, you know what I'm talking about. Because they push all your buttons because they know it, right? Like, oh man, you have a 6-month timeline with your friends. Nobody likes you, blah, 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 blah. You're nothing. I never loved you. Like I was faking it. You wasted all this time. Like this is like fucking heavy shit, man. Makes you feel like shit, right? Makes you feel like shit. Wouldn't the normal thing in that situation go like, man, I want to give up on myself. Gee, I'm fucking over it. Like Jesus Christ. This is horrible. And then now I'm in pain and now I'm hurting. And whenever anybody's in pain and hurting, they want to isolate, right? You want to isolate rather than express and actually reach out to somebody and say, hey man, I'm hurting. I need some help. All right. We don't do that. We isolate and we talk shit. We gossip. We blame. We get caught up in other people's problems to point out things about them. Right. But when we get into this toxic isolation, we get all this anger built up. And rather than the anger actually release or sadness or whatever it is, or depression, releasing in the way that it needs to release, that's expression, right? We pivot it into this other area where we ball it up and it just kind of spits out like a little, like a tea kettle spitting out steam or something, or when too much pressure happens and it breaks in a certain area and it's like, man, fuck this. I'm going to fight for a cause, or fuck this. I'm going to blame it all on, bipolar, Machiavellian, psychopathic people, or fuck this, man, if it weren't for Trump or if it weren't for the Clintons or whatever, blah, 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 blah. We get so caught up in all this shit and we start spouting out, man. And now more than ever, we can complain in a way, or we can talk shit, or we can be sad, or we can be fucked up in a way that doesn't directly address ourselves because there's so much going on. And now rather than connecting to a person face to face, I can connect to somebody online that I don't know, rather than actually like going up to somebody and looking in their eyes and seeing their face and being under threat of them physically doing something to me, or even like putting some emotion on me, it's face to face because we feel it more there. I can talk shit online. I can be an asshole. I can hurt somebody in a way, I can kind of like build that culture. And that's how we talk now, man. I said, dude, it's not going to change. Let's not blame it, but let's actually cite that we get in this mode, right? And what we really need to start doing is learning how to express. And we really need to start learning some tools of expression of where we're fucked up and we can talk about undesirable things. It's kind of like going through the grocery store and there's this really hot female checker and you're buying like, condoms and, fucking yeast infection cream or some shit or whatever, tampons for your chick. And you're just like, actually nobody gives a fuck about that stuff. But at first it feels weird, right? It's they should have a special line for undesirables that's just purely anonymous. But let's talk about those undesirables within us. See, because the thing is that you can talk about anything and get a connection. Okay, so let's even go into dating. You want to get sexual. You want to get a girl to like you. You want to spike her up. Man, you can talk about killing yourself. You could talk about your divorce. You could talk about being too fat. You could talk about not having friends. You could talk about, whatever it is, right? Being depressed, being dysfunctional in these different ways, right? And the first step to all of this is being able to express yourself, right? To be able to put yourself out there and be okay with it. And now so many times when I bring this up, it's like, man, I'm having sexual dysfunction. Well, how do we say it in a way where it seems alpha? How do we say it in a way where it seems good? No. Let's start right with this baseline. This foundation is us. This foundation is us saying who we are. Right? It's like, no, man, fuck. God, yeah, no, I have STDs. I have this and that or whatever, or I have erectile problems. Man, it's not a big deal. Man, I'm depressed. Yeah, sometimes I think about suicide, but not all the time. Especially when I'm depressed. Why is everybody afraid of that? Like, we need to be okay with it. Okay. And we need to be able to talk about it. And now the other thing too is sometimes we're not okay with it. Sometimes it's really fucking with us. Sometimes we're really sad. We need to be able to say it. Okay. And in that sense, I say like, that's why I be a part of a men's group, people. because that's key. But this was one of the first things that was told to me. I remember it was 2008. I was shooting Meehow's Infield Insider, and let me tell you what a shit show that was. That was just such a fuck up of a production. But anyway, parts of it made me look good, so hey, can't complain. It got me some good business and so on. But it was just a weird fucking thing. So one of those things was that I remember I was so fucked up. This was in 2008. I was so fucked. And my buddy actually told me, he said, hey man, you're fucked up. And why don't you just tell people that? Why don't you just be purely honest? You know, why don't you just be like one of those guys that's like, just dumps their shit on somebody and just do it. Like you're a professional pickup artist. You should be able to get around it or whatever. Like you should be able to work around it. And I always had this authenticity thing going with my approach, and I was always good at it. But that's what I did, man. I remember I was in San Diego, and I was like, no, man, I feel like shit. I can't see my kids, and like everything's fucked up in my relationships and whatever, and blah, 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 blah. And I was actually so good at social dynamics later on, like in 2000, when I did this and really gained some faith in it, because I did it for 3 months straight, was I dumped my shit. But I was good. He was right. I was good at something. All right. But later on, when I started teaching it more and more, and I remember I had a client in 2009, so about like 6 or 9 months later of just constantly doing this, where it didn't work out so well with them, but I would dump my shit on people. I'd be like, no, man, this is fucked up, and I'm confused about these things, and, man, and da-da-da-da. So a lot of times when you do that, people give you advice. So people weren't giving me advice because I was qualifying better. I was asking questions better. I was seeing how it affected them better. And one of the things that I had to tell to my clients that were going like, man, I fear getting bullied or judged or picked on by people. And people would be like, well, it's okay. You're going to do better. And that shit never happened to me. Never. Probably because I'd say like, no, man, when I was growing up, I like hated being bullied and picked on. And still like if somebody like does that to me, I get like a lump in my throat and I can't think. And but man, like, how does that happen to you? Like, I don't want you to have to give me some advice or whatever, but like, how does that happen to you? Like, I never got advice. It just never happened, right? But I remember working with this guy. I was like, well, how can you connect it? Because advice is almost as if it's judging you, right? When they give you advice, they're detached from you. They're not feeling you. They're not sharing your story. So how can you then get to this point where you can not necessarily put it on them for power, but get something from them? And so I told him, I said, when you're telling your stories about it did have to do with being bullied and judged and kind of shit on and beaten up and stuff like that. I said, number one, start guiding it in the direction that you want. And the direction that he wanted was that he believed there was more to it than just social dominance that gave people their value. Okay, so he enjoyed the empathy. So I was like, you need to slip that in a line. So you talk about being bullied or fucked with or whatever and just say, but I think there's more worth to a person. I think there's more than just that, than just what other people perceive them. And, having bad things happen to him or good things happen to him, like we're all equals in this way. So he had to say something like that. But then the second thing is that he had to directly ask them how that affected them to make it not so advice giving. All right. And that was his way of inching towards a connection. So an example of that would be like, man, I hate being bullied or fucked with. And it still fucks with me. But I still remember in the 7th grade when it happened. And, this guy got me in a headlock and he wouldn't let go. And I started crying. And then everybody started laughing at me. And it seemed like it lasted an eternity. But see, I believe that there's more to people than those moments or something. And actually, just let me ask you this, like, how do you know your worth or who you are, or what makes you feel good when you may not have a lot of people on your side? How does that work for you? So you got to put it on them, right? It's not for power. It's not for dominance. It's for a connection. All right. And so when we get back to this, it's like, there was another guy who was on our call on Monday. Well, we had a Sunday call and it went for 33 hours. It's more the reason why to be on this membership, man. It's like, it's insane. What we do is insane. We have the best men's group. I'm just going to say that. I mean, you can challenge it and I'm cool with it. I'm cool with even being wrong with that, but give us a few weeks after that and we'll be better. Because we just got so much shit going on, man. It's too fucking good. And there's a guy talking about his disabilities. And it was crazy, man. I'm like, you need to tell people that, but you need to tell people that and learn that you connect it with people. You need people to understand it. Man, you don't need to just dump on people. You know, I did that for 3 months straight. But you need to get the connection from that. You need to be okay with saying who you are. Because, man, that's where your power comes from. Right? And we think this over and over again, that we think that in order to get a result in society, whether it's whatever society says is good, whether that's to be popular, have money, fucking have notoriety, or it's the things that are really core to us, like our expression, our love, our passion, our fulfillment, our sense of worth, our sense of family, our sense of, God, that we have meaning in, that we have something to give in this world, that we're a part of it, man. All of that, man, is dependent upon you being able to show you. Because let me tell you something, when you get a result, yeah, sure, there's plenty of people that have proven you can get money, you can get happiness, you can get sex, you can get people loving you, you can get people worshiping you, you can get people that are following you out constantly, validating you in every single way that society says is supposed to be good. And if it doesn't have your expression, if it is not you, it will be repellent from you. And at some point, you're going to hate it and you're going to turn away from it. And it's just such a fuck thing. So we got to learn that, man. But it's very important to get that concept down, that expression is just part of it. And it's literally useless if we can't connect it and get somebody to understand it and get somebody to share that experience with us. Anyway, I'm here to talk to you to say that you can talk about literally anything that you want in your life. Start getting honest with yourself, because if you don't, especially in social dynamics, if you don't know what you want, who you are, what you're attracted to, what you're afraid of, what you're looking for in terms of love, or how people love you, or where you even want to meet people, you're going to be following too much of a model of somebody else and getting the results that may not be your expression. You need to start designing your life around that. And one of the best ways to do that is actually get involved with our challenge that's going to be coming up, that has to do with meeting and making connections. Very simple. It's a 7-day challenge. And we'll take you through everything. And in fact, if you want to know about that, free stuff link. Man, get involved in it. Get on our email list. Join the Austin Men's Development Board. You will hear about it. Because in this challenge, basically for 7 days, we're going to do a quick inventory of you. We're going to design how we can talk and meet people around that. You're going to get personal service from myself and all sorts of different alumni who've lived it. So that means if you're a young kid in college, you're going to get one direction of how to express yourself and meet people and get social and how to build connections. But if you're somebody who's divorced, or if you're somebody that is living a professional life, or if you're somebody that does have a disability, it's going to be a different angle of those things. And all of them work, and they're all of the same value. And man, that's a fucking cool thing. But even more importantly, you get to do it as a part of a group and interact. And it's just it's a beautiful thing. And it's so hard to describe until you've actually lived it. So sign up on that free stuff link down below. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to it or watching it. If that's on YouTube, give it likes and comments. I reply to everything. And if it's on iTunes or Stitcher, so Stitcher has like a thumbs up or something like that, and iTunes has the stars and comments and all that sort of shit. And the more you do that, the more popular it gets. And sadly, I don't pay anybody to fake that to move me up in the rankings. In any case, that's it for Wednesday night. We're going to be burning it pretty hardcore tonight. So I'll stop now. Later.